So let's start with the rapid fire round. The first question is, at what age do you want to retire?
Wow, maybe 80?
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
Oh, I'm quite quick. Half an hour?
Favorite color?
Blue.
What time of day are you most inspired?
In the morning.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
7.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming finance trend is blank.
CBDC.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Extra.
Pick one, Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh. Zuckerberg.
The biggest mistake of your career.
To stay too long at an employer.
How do you relax?
Reading a book.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
0.
A habit of yours that you hate.
I always need to clean up before I start working.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Listening.
Your favorite Netflix show.
Emily in Paris.
One word description of your leadership style.
Enthusiastic.
Coffee or tea to kickstart your day.
Tea, always tea.
Top priority in your daily schedule.
To meet the team.
Ideal vacation spot for relaxation.
I prefer to be at the beach.
Key factor for maintaining a work-life balance.
Closing down your laptop at some point in time.
All right, that's the end of the rapid fire.
This episode is sponsored by Outgrow.co, the world's first all-in-one interactive content builder. Use Outgrow to build quizzes, calculators, tests, polls, forms, contests, and chatbots to generate leads and keep your audience engaged. Sign up for a free trial at https://outgrow.co.
Let's go on to the longer questions, which you can answer with as much time and ease as you like. The first one is, what are the primary objectives of the Digital Euro project? And what role do you see it playing in the future of European payments?
Well, thank you. That's a very wide question. So to start with, the easy answer is that for us, it's a natural evolution of cash. So currently, people have two ways to pay. Either they pay with central bank money, which is cash, or you pay with digital means of payments that you are provided by your bank or non-bank providers. And we believe that when everything is digitizing, it's also logic that cash is digitalizing, so that we move to digital cash. Apart from that, I think there are key reasons for the digital euro that we consider. One is this one. So we find it important that we have both cash and private means of payment, and that you can switch between both, and that you can keep this trust. So that's one. Second, we find it very important that also digitally, like with a banknote, you can have one way to pay, which is not there in Europe. And finally, it's also about strategic autonomy. So currently, we are very dependent on non-European providers for something so essential for society as payments. Nobody thinks about it, but if it stops, it's like having no water, no gas. It's really disrupted very soon. And next to that, we also see new forms of alternative currencies popping up, stable coins, but also other CBDCs. So we find it important that also there we maintain our own currency and our strategic independence.
So all this sounds very good in theory, but are there any key challenges and opportunities you're facing in implementing the digital euro?
Well, first of all is, of course, that the digital euro would be something for everybody, for society. So it's important that we have a joint understanding and agreement how a digital euro should be framed. And this is something that is currently done in the legislation. There's a draft legislation by the Commission, which is now entered into a democratic debate. So that's the first thing that is important that we do. And then the second one is that next to the objectives that I just said, they are more policy objectives. But we need to make sure that people would like to pay with the digital euro or like to be paid with the digital euro. And as we said, a lot of time we are not replacing cash, we're not replacing private means of payment, we're an alternative choice, but we would value if people will use it in certain use cases on a regular basis.
So how do you further plan to engage with various stakeholders here, including financial institutions, businesses, and consumers for the development of the digital euro?
Well, this is very important for us. So from the start, we have interacted with all market stakeholders. So we have a formal interaction via the European Retail Payments Board, where you have merchants, you have consumer organizations, and financial institutions, both banks and non-bank PSPs. And there we have already interacted a lot on the design and the things that are important, and we continue to do this going forward. Next to that, we reach out regularly to civil society organizations, and we go to all kind of events. We do podcasts and interviews to really make sure that we reach as much as possible.
So how do you then ensure that financial institutions are adequately prepared and equipped to handle the integration of the digital euro into their existing systems?
So in the end, they need to do it themselves. So, but we could make sure that it would be not too disruptive. So we have set up a rulebook development group already last year, where we have the representatives of these market stakeholders, including financial institutions, and they help us to translate the what. So what do we want into the how, and into what specifications, and there we really actively look into how can we reuse existing standards, existing solutions, so that we can limit the implementation effort that is needed from all parties. And we do this in parallel with the legislation, so that at the moment the legislation could be adopted, and then potentially the Governing Council would decide to issue. Then we can give full clarity not only to financial institutions, but also to the merchants who would need to accept the digital euro, how they could best implement that.
So it seems you have had a very broad experience in the payments industry in general. Can you share more about your career journey in this industry and how it led you to your current role at the ECB?
Yes. Well, I'm from nature or from background a technical engineer, but technical engineering, it was industrial engineering and business, so with an economic angle to it. And then after 2 years in something completely different, I was in the textile industry. I moved to a bank as a management trainee, and then they had 5, and they dropped them somewhere, and I was dropped in payments, and then I was caught and I fell in love with payments. So I never left payments. I did move employers, so I had multiple employers in the private sector, seeing both the processor side, the bank side, the merchant side, the consumer side. And then there was the opportunity for the program manager of the digital euro, and I thought this is a great step, because I really truly believe that payments is, as I explained before, really a public good. So it's good that we ensure it's there for the future. So it was a nice a bridge and a nice step to make to do this product development, I would say, on the European scale.
So how does then the digital euro project that you're working on now, how does it address privacy concerns while ensuring compliance with regulations such as GDPR?
Yeah. Well, GDPR for us is a given. But on top of that, we saw from a public consultation before we even started the investigation phase that privacy is very high on people's concerns or wishes, actually, for digital euro. So we have designed the digital euro from the start with privacy on top of our mind. And first of all, we are designing also an offline digital euro, which would mean that you would hold the digital euro on a secure element, either on your phone or on a card. And it's like putting money in your wallet, really physical money in your wallet. So if you lose it, it's gone. But the benefit of that is that if you do a transaction, that the transaction goes between the two secure elements. So nobody, it not enters a network, so nobody can trace these kind of payments. So it's a very private solution and very close to cash. Next to that, for the online one, where the information travels over the internet and via a network, we have made sure in the design that the Euro system will not see any private data. So it goes first to the bank pseudonymizes it, so make it anonymous for us, so that we cannot link any transaction to a private individual. So with that, we really truly believe that we deliver a payment solution that with a much higher level of privacy than any current solution currently around.
So speaking of high level of privacy compared to other solutions, does the ECB also keep an eye on other ongoing central bank digital currency projects in the world?
Yes, of course. So it's in a certain sense on uncharted territory. So it's good to learn from each other. We see that jurisdictions have different approaches. Sometimes more on the policy side, sometimes more on the technology side. So we don't copy one on one, but we do learn and we share experiences. And also with the BIS, so the Bank of International Settlements, we also already work that we can make sure that towards the future, if there are multiple digital central bank digital currencies, that they can be interoperable with each other.
So what are like some interesting lessons that the ECB has learned from these other central bank CBDC initiatives? Any interesting, memorable lessons?
Well, I think an important. So we learn from more technical experiments that are done, for example, by the Riksbank on offline, for example. But we also learn from experience with implementation, with rollout, with use cases, what works, what didn't work, so that we can really design the best digital euro for the Europeans.
And so how do you plan to differentiate the digital euro from other payment options, not just other currencies, and ensure it resonates with people?
So there are a couple of features that are very, very distinctive. So, for example, the offline digital euro is a solution that is currently non-existent in the European market, which will really give a digital, well, as close to cash as possible, digital, how do you say it, equivalent of cash. But for example, the other very important thing is that the digital euro would be accepted all across Europe. So you can trust, so it is widely accessible. So you can trust if you go to your bank that you get access. But also, if you look to the current draft legislation, all merchants will have to accept it, the ones that accept digital payments. So that means that you can, like with your banknote, really trust that wherever you travel, either physically or online, in Europe, you can pay with the digital euro, or you can share a bill with friends, even if you're not from the same country. So these are already very important benefits. On top of that, we will take extreme care that it's very secure, that and that it's very user friendly in its usage.
A little bit of a lighter question now. What does your typical day at the ECB look like? You wake up in the morning and then?
Well, I live roughly 20 minutes from the ECB, so I walk to the ECB. I'm having a late breakfast, so normally when I come on the floor, I start up my computer, but because we're so secure, it takes a while before we're really upgrade to all the systems. So in parallel, I take a cup of tea, I take my breakfast, check in with the team, and then I have all kind of meetings, physical meetings, so really one-on-one seeing people, but also a lot of virtual people meetings. And they vary very much. So they're either with the team itself, or we interact with potential suppliers, or quite often there are meetings with our stakeholders where we interact with them and we learn from them. So it's a wide variety, and we talk about legal stuff. So how would the legislation look like, and what would it mean for us? To very technical topics on would we do message-based or API-based? So I have never a dull moment. Um, there's a nice lunch area in the ECB. I know I'm Dutch, so we're used to like some bread, but you get like already a warm meal, which I like actually. I've got too used to that. And then I try not to close too late, and then I walk back home and I try to relax a bit before the next day.
Well, how much of your time is taken up by meetings?
Quite a few, I think, maybe 80.
80%.
Yes.
Right. And what advice would you have for people looking for a job in this industry or with the ECB?
Well, I think all the time, if you need to look for a job that interests you, so that intrinsically motivates you. So you need to be, I think, curious by nature, because payments is a very interesting a topic. It's not so easy. It's a two-sided market, so it's both, and it depends a lot on IT. So that combination of complexity you need to like and to do, and then otherwise, then I would just go for it and give it a try.
Right. So looking ahead at the future, then, what are your long-term goals for the digital euro and your vision for the future of payments in Europe?
Well, being the program manager of the digital euro, we would hope that the legislation would pass, of course, and that then the governing council would decide to issue the digital euro. So I would love to bring the digital euro really to life and to really implement it and to be able to do one of the first transactions. Of course, the first one will be done by the president, but and to really see it coming into existence, that would be something personal. But I think it's also important, as I said before, that we have this as an alternative choice for the future to secure that people have access to central bank money.
And how do you balance this future-oriented thinking with a results-driven approach in your leadership style?
Well, I think there is currently we are a bit of uh, so we since we're depending on the legislation, we don't have very clear timelines, but we keep trying to set goals of things that we find important and that we know we need to do anyway, and to keep the pace there. So we just set goals for the coming 2 years, and then of course you set goals for the coming 3 months. And I have to say, I have a very highly motivated team. So they are already very motivated and result driven by themselves. So it's not that I need to push them a lot. But with that, we keep the pace, and we also believe it's important to keep the pace because the evolutions in payments are, and that triggered the thinking on the digital euro, are still progressing. And we need to be aware that implementing new payment solutions is always taking always more than you hope for. So it takes some time. So we need to keep the pace to make sure that we are there when in time to address the challenges that we want to address and need to address.
Right. So the last question for you is of a personal kind. What would you be doing in your life if not this?
I would write a book. I am Evelien Witlox, and I'm the director for the digital euro within the European Central Bank. Catch me on the Technologies of the Month show.